The Senate Committee on Petroleum Downstream investigating the scarcity of fuel in the country raises fresh questions about subsidy payment for petrol and who approved it. What a year it has been. We'll recap the biggest political stories that shaped the year 2017. Quite a busy political year, you may say. We are in the final week of 2017, perhaps the final show of politics today here on Channels Television for 2007. So there is no better time to recap the biggest political events of 2017. First, let's start with today's major headlines. As the fuel scarcity continues in the country, the Senate is weighing in on what has caused many Nigerians a great deal of pain. But the discussion around the recent fuel scarcity has brought up the issue of subsidy. Who caused the shot at the NNPC? And the issue of delegation now. A probe panel has been set up. The Senate Committee on Petroleum Downstream, which is to investigate the scarcity of fuel in the country, says the investigation intends to find out if subsidy is being paid for petrol and who approved it.
The Senate President, our distinguished Senator Dr. Abubakar Bukola Saraki, felt very deeply troubled about this development, and because of that, as you will have heard over the media, he has ordered that the Senate Committee on Downstream Petroleum should suspend their recess and get back to work.
We were told that there is subsidy. If there is subsidy, who approves the subsidy? We are the only ones that can appropriate money. Nobody else. That is why the Senate had, you heard from the Senate resoundingly before we went on recess, when they talked about taking $1 billion to fight insurgency. Nobody can take any money without the approval of the Senate. Forget about whatever somebody says.
The 2017 calendar is only a few days away from packing up, and it will be a fresh page for a brand new year. But some events of 2017 will spill over into the new year 2018, and some forgotten. Now, here is a recap of the leading political stories of the year 2017.
I had, of course, been speaking to him on the phone, and I thought it would be a good thing to go and see him and, generally check up on how he was doing, and also to brief him on developments back at home. So we had a very good time, had a very good conversation on wide-ranging issues, and he's in very good spirits. He's recuperating very quickly, and he's doing very well.
The National Assembly or the President's Cabinet must act now, take the bull by the horn, and allow the President to go home and rest. Even when he comes back, he doesn't have to come back to be President. We didn't bargain for a President that will spend 2/3 of the time in a year on the sick bed and 1/3 trying to manage to be President or do the needful. I therefore say very accurately that the acting president statement saying that the president is okay is not true. President Buhari is very sick, still very sick, in critical condition, and can no longer move this country forward, and as a result, should please step aside. We have made efforts, and we have been able to establish that the president is on life support. We have been able to establish this, and I'm saying that going forward, if no step is taken to tell Nigerians the truth about the state of health of our president, I will release 11 pictures to show the state of health of the president of Nigeria.
So is that on that point that we kick off on the health and medical travels of the president on this countdown of the top 10 biggest political stories of the year 2017 right here from Channels Television Political Desk. The president made a back and forth trip to London to attend to his health, but emotions ran high when the president was away for more than 100 days. Some even called for his resignation. You heard it from the governor of Ekiti State, Ayodele Fayose, but the vice president at the time did say the president was okay. So we move to a second story of the year. Senate President Bukola Saraki's CCT trial over alleged false asset declaration is one of the major political events of the year. Though his legal battle did not start in 2017, but the trial reached its climax before his acquittal and eventual ruling of a possible retrial. One thing that is clear is the last has not been heard of the case.
You recall that I had always, in addressing you, told you that the prosecution had no case, that the case had collapsed, and that every time we destroyed the case, they amended to try to patch it up. I had always told you this. And it gives me no particular pleasure to say I told you so, but that's how it is. I told you so. We have a situation where the National Assembly is distracted, the Senate President is facing charges, the Deputy Senate President is facing charges, the clerk. Happily, that matter went off. And then you now have the Senate President who has to spend all his time preparing to fight for his own freedom. I do not think that a government like that can get the very best. And that is why we are glad that whatever it was that compelled this trial in the first place, we are happy that eventually the law was allowed to take its course and that the facts spoke for themselves.
We have already started making arrangements for the ruling. So once we get the ruling, well, it's not a judgment, it's a ruling. But if you like, you call it judgment, maybe because it has gone in depth and all that. So you can call it judgment, but it's a ruling. And we have already started making arrangements to get a copy of the ruling. As soon as it's out, then we'll study it and then we know what next to do.